How many of you were musicians, vocally or instrumentally, growing up?
Do what now?
The rest of you were probably in the same boat that I was. Although I love to listen to music, I was not made to sing or play an instrument. But we are all living testimony that whether you are a musician or not, you made it through to college. So therefore you had some sort of education, motivation, and commitment to make it here. I am here today responding to the claim of fact that music in public schools will better students' education. The supporting claims for this claim of fact were that music creates commitment and motivation in students, and with music, students will achieve more in other fields. I am not here to completely deny the fact that that music in public schools betters students' education, but rather to show you the weaknesses in the evidence used, and also that the music is not as important as my advocate stressed. To begin, the supporting claim that music creates commitment and motivation in students was supported by evidence from Roger H. Brown, the president of Berklee College of Music, in a 2007 interview. The evidence is reliable, but Brown's full message is not fully conveyed. He stated the number one reason to teach music in schools is there is a lot of students for whom this is the pathway to open them up to learning in the first place. He is stating that there is a group of students who are able to learn through the method of music, but not all students learn through this method. This shows that while music is important to some students, it is not vital for the whole student body. Brown later states that athletics and music have been the two things that kept people who hated school willing to come and show up and at least finish. Therefore, music is not the only thing motivating students to better their education, but athletics are playing a role too. The next warrant that my advocate uses to support her claim is the commitment created by music is different than a club because, as she says, you don't just have fun, but you're also learning something. There is no concrete evidence to back this assertion. On Public School Review, an article written in 2003 by a journalist, Grace Chen, states that the intent of an academic club is to generate the enthusiasm of a topic, while encouraging students' involvement and achievement. Public schools today have a greater scope in clubs. For example, robotics clubs, gaming clubs, computer design clubs, and web clubs. Students not only learn how technology works, but they're also able to have fun. Also, in a study published in Journal of Adolescent Research of 1999, 10th and 12th graders were asked a series of questions about their school involvement and education. No significant difference was shown between performing arts and academic clubs. They both proved to better the GPA and the likelihood that a student was going to go to college. Therefore, clubs can be compared to music, because not only can students have fun, they will learn information and commitment as well. The second supporting claim was that with music, students will achieve more in other fields. The claim is backed by evidence stating that students with a musical background, on average, get 100 points better than students with no musical background. The evidence comes from a video off the Children's Music Workshop website, but there is no information about where the data came from or how it was acquired. Also, my advocate mentioned that Dr. Rauscher presented this data, but in actuality, the data was presented by the narrator of the film, who is unknown. There is no background information about the study, and therefore the evidence is not dependable. Next, it is stated that students with a musical background learn languages easier because they have learned to read music. There is no data presented or that could be found to support this assertion. Lastly, my advocate touched on the point that students who learn music also do better in math, history, and science. Evidence was presented to show second grade students excelling in math if they had a musical background. The data also comes from the Child Music Workshop video. And while a professor from Irvine may have done the study, there is no written proof or documentation showing the study was performed or where it was published, which makes the source unreliable. There is data, though, that I have found that links athletics and math performance. In the article, Athletics and Academics, Are They Compatible?, written in High School Magazine in 2000 by a math professor, Mark Stegman, it is shown that students who have a high participation, meaning they're at least in one sport, showed an outperformance in their math grade or GPA compared to those students who are in low participation, which means they weren't in any sports. Therefore, athletics can be shown to improve math grades, which shows that music isn't the only thing reliable, or the only thing helping students out. There is no denying that music betters students' education, but the question is, how important is it really? The supporting claims that music creates commitment and motivation in students, and also that with music students will achieve more in other fields, are shown to be backed with unreliable evidence. Also, the importance of music is challenged, as you can also see, by the knowledge that athletics and academic clubs also play a role in students' education. Each student can be motivated and educated in different ways, whether it's clubs, sports, or music.
All right, Kristina, you did a very good job starting us off by using a survey as a way of illustrating a general point, and it became clear that your counterclaim was going to be that not to deny that music had an impact, but to suggest that there are other things that might have an impact, and to argue that the advocate did not really adequately prove their particular claim. And I thought you did a very good job challenging the evidence that the advocate presents. On the first point, for instance, you take the evidence that the advocate used and find there is additional information in that source that suggests that it's also applicable to athletics, which seems to suggest that music is not all that unique, and it almost responds to that other point that the advocate presented about how other clubs don't have the same kind of impact. On that second point, I thought that you had a very good argument about a lack of evidence on the point, but then you add to your argument by presenting good counter evidence to show that, in fact, clubs and organizations do have a substantial effect on performance, and this is excellent counterclaim evidence on that particular point. It's very much to the point. On a couple of the other points, you challenged the data that the advocate's presenting as being a little bit vague and uncertain as to what the source is. And the best part of your argument is your willingness to say, look, I'm not sure whether or not this evidence is good or bad, but I can tell you that the evidence I'm citing comes from this particular source, published in this particular publication, evaluated by this particular group, and here's what they said. And so contrasting the evidence that you're using is one of the things that you definitely want to do in refuting an argument. I thought that sometimes the challenges seem a little repetitive, but you are trying to develop them independently on the individual points, and I thought you did a very good job on that. Thank you.